Hello everyone. Good morning. I am Shena Gabriel Zarate, and we are the Group 9. And we will be discussing about the fish fabrications and seafood. What is fish? Fish that lives in the water is covered with the scales and breathes by taking water in through its mouth, or the flesh of these animals eaten as food by human. In this part, we will be going to tackle about the fish fabrication. Fish fabrication is the process of cutting primal cuts into usable portions. Before we're going to the step-by-step processes of the fish fabrications, let us all know what are the objectives of choosing or purchasing a fresh fish and to know what are the freshness of our food and what is the classification of fish and their market forms of choosing a fresh fish? Choosing or purchasing a fresh fish. Classification of fish. In a general terms, the recognition they are divided into the following categories by habitat, physical shape, and flesh type. Habitat, freshwater fish found in rivers, lakes, and fish ponds. And saltwater fish found in the oceans and physical shape, round fish and flat fish. And lastly, flesh type, white fish and oily fish. Habitat refers to where the fish lives. It is divided into two categories, freshwater and saltwater. Freshwater fishes are found in the rivers, lakes, and fish ponds. And this is the water that has no salt. And these are the examples of the fishes that can survive in the fresh water. And saltwater fishes. Salt water contains salt in the ocean and sea. So the fish in salt water cannot live in the fresh water. And these are the fishes that can survive in the salt water. Physical shape refers to general shape and appearance of the fish. White fish, all white color general fishes which are available in the market are white fish, and it is divided into two categories, round fish and flat fish.
And round fish. The shape of the round fish is generally considered the classic fish shape, a round tapering body with one eye on each side of the head. And these are some examples of round fishes. And flat fish. Flat fish are found in the deep ocean's water, have a symmetrical compressed body, swim in a horizontal position with four fillets on both sides, and also have both eyes on the top of their head. And bottom dwellers, top of their bodies is dark and the bottom is lighter in color. And these are the some examples of the flat fishes. Flesh type refers to the color and texture of the flesh of the fish. And there are two categories, white and oily fish. And let's proceed to the oily fish. Oily fish are fish species with oil fats in soft tissues and the colamine cavity around the gut. Their fillets may contain up to 30% oil, although this figure varies both within the between species. Example of oily fish include small forage fish such as sardines, herring, and other larger pelagic fish, such as salmon, tuna, swordfish, and mackerel. And next reporter, please.
Hello everyone, I'm John Viola. We'll be discussing market forms of fresh fish and storage and handling. First, market forms of fresh fish. So here are some examples of the forms of fresh fish. Wool or round fish are sold just as they come from the water. They must be scaled and investigated, or sa madaling salita, tanggalin na yung mga dapat tanggalin bago ito lutuin. Kasi hindi masarap kainin ng isda kapag mayroon pang kaliskis, bituka at hasang na nagsasani ng malansang amoy. Second one is drawn or gutted fish has its entrails removed, pero kinakailangan pa ding linisin at mas matagal ang storage life nito kumpara sa whole fish. The third one is dressed fish. Dressed fish are ready to cook, usually with head, tail, and fins removed. The edible portion is about 67%. The sides of the fish cut away from the backbone and are ready to cook. They are usually boneless with no waste. Next slide, please. Canned fish is which have been processed, sealed in an airtight container such as sealed tin can, and subjected to heat. They may also be eviscerated before packaging. Before packing, typically the larger varieties. If not, they should be purged of undigested or partially digested food by holding the live fish in tank long enough for them to empty their digestive systems. Fish are typically tightly packed in a small can, which is scored for is easily opening either with a pull tab, similar to how a can beverage can is opened, or a key attached to the underside of the can. Thus, it has the virtues of being an easily portable, non-perishable, self-contained food. Next one is frozen fish. Frozen fish are fish that have been subjected to freezing in a manner to preserve the inherent quality of the fish by reducing the average temperature to negative 18 degrees Celsius or lower, and which are then kept in a temperature of negative 18 degrees Celsius. Freezing allows year-round availability and makes it easy to include as part of healthy diet. Freezing stop all microbiological activity, and this includes pathogens which cause food poisoning and also spoilage. Frozen fish and seafoods undergoes a high level of microbiological checks. The next one is dried fish. This form of fish has been dehydrated or water removed to inhibit the growth of microorganisms in the fish. Open air drying using sun and wind has been practiced since ancient times to preserve food. Next slide, please. The next topic is storage and handling. It is important to keep fish as cold as possible, especially during fabrication, because it keeps the flesh firm and yields smooth, clean cuts. In a hot kitchen, fish will warm up quickly, causing the quality to deteriorate and the flesh to become soft and loose. Holding fish on ice will prolong its shelf life too. Replenish ice as often as needed, and always drain excess water from accumulating in the storage pan. Keeping the fish ice will provide a continuous rinsing action that minimize odors and maximize shelf life up to 1 week. So here are some tips for you to keep or to maintain the quality of fish and its freshness. Number 1, keep fish cold and on ice at all times. Which is, ito po yung pinaka-basic na pagpe-preserve ng isda. Number 2 is, whole fish should always be eviscerated. Or sa madaling salita, take out the entrails of fish or yung mga laman loob nito, tulad ng hasang at bituka bago ito iimbak. Fish should be held at a temperature of 29 to 32 degree Fahrenheit and negative 2 degree to 0 degree Celsius. Number 4 is wrap fillets in a plastic wrap when icing to prevent ice crystal from tearing the flesh of the fish. The next one is, it is best to use fresh fish within 2 to 3 days from delivery, but whole fish can be held longer. The last one is, place fish in a perforated pan inserted in a drip pan for drainage of excess water. Dahil dito, mapapanatili nating fresh ang ating isda kasi siya yung nagde-drain ng excess water or nagpi-filter ng maduming tubig na pwede mag-cause ng pagkabaho ng isda. Yun lang po. Thank you. Next reporter, please.
Good day, everyone. This is Britannica Windham, and today I'm going to report about knowing the quality criteria for selection and the staleness indicators. So first, the quality criteria for selection is how do I choose fish? The selection of the best fresh fish is something learned over time. However, there are few indicative yet useful rules for inexperienced consumers. So it's really important that we have our senses because these are playing a key role when we buy fish. Yes, it's true. For us to determine its freshness, we should always see, touch, and feel the product. So especially in choosing the fish, always check the smell, the look, the texture, and on what I have mentioned are just some example to determine the freshness of the fish. And later, I will tell you the step-by-step in which a guide in purchasing the right and best quality of fish. So next slide po. So in proper handling of fish and standards of sanitation, um, of fish between captured and delivery to the consumer is a crucial element in assuring final product quality. Also, in standards of sanitation, method of handling, and the time or temperature of holding fish are also significant quality factors. So, with a few exceptions, fish are considered free of pathogenic bacteria of public health significance when first caught. The presence of bacteria harmful to man generally indicates poor sanitation in handling and processing and the contamination. Also, the safety and health of the consumers depends on this. So I suggest na do not neglect and at least follow the correct handling and cleaning in which to ensure the good and proper way of holding fish because it may cause the contamination with the food or the product. So what will happen? We, consumer, have the possibility to get stomach ache or will probably lead to poisoning. So as much as possible in practicing the proper sanitation, as what indicated, it tells the significant quality factors, especially for its cleanliness. And speaking of cleanliness, I have here some do's and don'ts. So next slide po. Cleanliness, as for we all know about do's and don'ts, this advise us for what we should and always should not do in any situation. And in proper handling of fish and standards of sanitation, here are the following advice we must adapt also as part of our awareness na rin. So first, in those, always wash hands truly with hot, soapy water before preparing foods and after handling raw fish. Second, always wash utensils that have touched raw fish with hot soapy water before using them for foods. Also, wash counters, cutting boards, and other surface raw fish have touched. So also in don'ts, don't let raw fish or juice touch ready-to-go foods either in the refrigerator or during preparation. So the second and the last for don'ts is don't put cooked foods on the same plate that held raw fish. Next slide po. How to identify fresh fish. So the fish quality is largely based on the freshness of the product. Finding a reliable purveyor to provide superior fish and seafood is important for maintaining consistency in the kitchen. So whether the product are whole, fillets, and side or portion cut, look for a firm texture and fresh odor as signs of wholesomeness. Only buy fish that is refrigerated or displayed on a thick bed of fresh fish. So, mas prefer po ito if naka-case or under some type of cover. The most important characteristic of a fish is its freshness. And the freshest fish is the one that has been caught. And to identify fresh fish, first of all, the smell of the fish should be pleasant, vibrant, but also kind of neutral, like the smell of the seawater. If the fish has a distinct, intense smell, fishy, then it's not fresh fish. This exact smell will also be present after the fish is cooked. We should always remember, though, that some fish have a natural intense smell compared to others, so the looks also important. Criterion when choosing the fish fresh, it's also firm and good. It's stated there that its body should shine and metallic and clean. As far as its texture, we can understand if it is fresh by pressing it flesh. If it's tight, has elasticity, and returns to its original shape, then the fresh is fish and was recently caught. Also, the eyes should always bright and clear. If the fish has dull, watery eyes sunken into the sockets, it means that it's not fresh. Also, the gills, on the other hand, should have a rich, deep colored and be wet. If their color turns brown or dark, then it's better to choose another one. So another characteristic of a fresh fish is the existence of mucus throughout its body. A fresh fish can finally be cleaned easily since we can get it to without breaking its innards. Nonetheless, the real test is the cooking and the delicious result. When we are cooking fresh fish, its bones should be white. Also, we should remember that when we fry or grill it, it's get arc, lifting its nose and tail. Moreover, the flesh fish does not shrink and can be easily and totally separated from the bones. When flesh remains attached to the bone, the fish is not that fresh. So unfortunately, raw fish is not necessarily fresh because it might have spent many days or the water before being sold. At the same time, its preservation condition during the transportation between the fisherman and the market may alter its taste and nutritional value and affect its final flavor. So there are also many techniques used by fishmongers that can mislead consumer about the freshness of the fish, like its eye clarity, bright red or color of the gills. So this means that the final flavor of our dish actually determines the quality and freshness of the fish we bought. Next slide po. So before we proceed to the next topic, let's watch a short video on how to check if your fish is fresh.
Welcome to the Food Secret Kitchen, where we source our fish daily from Billingsgate Market. Today, I've got 5 top tips for you to check if a fish is fresh. So here we have a lovely salmon. The first thing I'm going to look at is whether the eyes are clear, bright, and plump. Next, I'm going to look into the gills. The gills are the lungs of the fish and they should be a really nice oxygenated bright red. The older the fish, the darker the gills become. While you're here, have a good sniff. It should smell of fish and sea, but it shouldn't smell badly fishy. If it does, you've got a problem. And I'm going to run my hands over the fish, and it should have a natural slime to it. I can also check there are no blemishes and that the fish is firm to the touch. I'm happy that this fish is of good quality, and now it's ready for preparation.
So the next topic is staleness indicators. So why fish become stale? Spoilage is caused by action of enzymes, bacteria, and chemical presence in the fish. In addition, the following factors contribute to spoilage of fish. So the first is high moisture content, high fat content, high protein content, weak muscle tissue, ambient temperature, and unhygienic handling. So spoilage and freshness are the two qualities that can be clearly defined. A fresh product is defined as one of the whole original characters and remains unchanged. So next slide. In physical characters, change in color, odor, texture, color of the eyes, color of the gills, and softness of the muscles are some of the characteristics observed in spoiled fish. So it's, as we can see, the unpleasant ammonia odor in the third one, sunken eyes and loss of clarity in the first one. Gills will be dull and discolored. Also, it's unpleasant taste on the second one. So in short, we compare it to all of the criteria, and the fresh fish is more different or opposite to a stale fish. So to prevent such things like this, I will lastly tell you about the precautions. So, next slide po. So the staleness indicators precaution. For safety, always buy fish from places from where you can be certain that it is fresh. It's better if you buy in the fish port or trusted market. Second, before cooking, remove all scales. Third, for fish varieties for which skinning is required, do it properly. It is important to make sure that it is clean. In addition, wash fish at least thrice. Apply Bengal gram flour to the fish. So for some of you, if that you are not familiar with Bengal gram flour, with dish help to the dish help maintain the consistency of the fish and also to prevent spoilage of fish tail. Lastly, before making a purchase, check for the smell of ammonia or formalin. And if there are such things like this, avoid fish or get another one. So once again, I'm Britannica, and that's all for quality criteria for selection and staleness indicator. Next reporter, please.
Good day everyone. My name is Michaela Yu, and today I will be discussing the fish fabrication steps, cuts of fish, and tools for preparing fish. Fish fabrication steps. Number 1, always sanitize the area before and after processing fish. Hand washing, hand sanitizing, and toilet facilities are all required to help maintain the sanitation in fish processing facilities. You want to routinely monitor the condition of these facilities, ensuring they are clean and functioning properly. Number 2, scale and gut the fish if needed. To prevent this decomposing from spoiling the flesh, it is usually recommended that you gut your fish before storing or cooking it. Number 3, trim fins with a kitchen shears. Remove the fins with your kitchen shears. You're going to snip all of these fins off as close to the body as you can. Note that the dorsal fin in particular can have some very prickly bones in it, and trying to scale the fish with it still attached can lead to injury. Number 4, remove the head by cutting through the fillet just behind the gills to the spine. Repeat this step on the opposite side and twist or cut off the head to finish off. Number 5, proceed with filleting or cross-cut into steaks. A steak is a crosswise cut made perpendicular to the spine. generally made from larger fish such as salmon, tuna, swordfish, and mahi-mahi. With a steak cut, the vertebrae, skin, and bones are left intact. Number 6. Remove pin bones from the fillets with a needle nose plier. To remove, use needle nose pliers or tweezers to grab the pin bone and gently pull it out, taking care not to tear the meat. Number 7. Trim excess fat and skin the fillets if desired. Number 8. Remove the bloodline which can have an unpleasant taste. Number 9. Rinse in a mild saltwater solution. And number 10. Portion as desired. Next, cuts of fish. Number 1. Fillet. A fillet is the meat cut from sides of the fish. There are 3 types of fillets. Number 1, whole, V-cut, and J-cut, with the latter 2 being the most popular. With both cuts, the pin bone is removed. In a J-cut, the nape, a small, thin, fatty piece of meat on the lower side of the fillet, has also been removed. Number 2, butterfly fillet. Commonly used for small freshwater fish, a butterfly fillet is essentially 2 fillets attached by skin that, when spread out, take on the shape of a butterfly. This cut is ideal for pan frying or baking. Number 3, loin. There are 2 types of loins. Natural fillet loins from small and medium-sized fish, and cut loins taken lengthwise across the backs of large fish like tuna, swordfish, and shark. Whether natural or cut loins are prime cuts of thick and flavorful meat without the waste of skin or bones. Number 4, steaks. A steak is a crosswise cut made perpendicular to the spine, generally made from larger fish, such as salmon, tuna, swordfish, and mahi-mahi. Number 5, tail. The back end of the fish closest to the tail, normally cut and sold bone-in, very flavorful and best seasoned and roasted. Number 6, whole fish. While whole fish may not be a cut, it is still very a popular way to prepare fish. Whole fish can be purchased either in the round, with the head, tail, and viscera still intact, or gutted, which means the viscera has been removed but the head is intact. Next, tools for preparing fish. Sharp knife. This is probably one of the most important tools you can have in your kitchen, whether preparing seafood or not. There are many different types of knives, and ultimately it comes down to what you are using the knife for and your personal preference to determine which knife is right for you. The most important thing is that your knife is sharp. Number 2, fillet knife. Probably one of the most popular types of knives for filleting a fish. They tend to be very thin, flexible, and sometimes are curved. They work well for removing the skin from a fillet and getting close to the bones when filleting. Your fillet knife doesn't have to be expensive or fancy, as long as you keep it sharp. Next, boning knife. Boning knife and fillet knives are pretty similar from what we can tell. However, boning knives, while thinner than most kitchen knives, tend not to be as thin as fillet knife blade and are not always flexible. Though they do make flexible boning knives, they also tend to be straight and curved. Next, deba. A deba is a Japanese-style knife used to cut fish or meat. The deba is heavier than the fillet or boning knife and is sharp and thin at the front and a bit thicker towards the handle. It is versatile and can be used to fillet, but is also particularly good at cutting through the bones of the fish, such as to remove the head or cut through the ribs. Next, chef's knife. A chef's knife is a multi-purpose knife. It is designed to perform well at many different kitchen tasks. such as chopping vegetables or slicing meat rather than excelling at any one in particular. Most of us own a chef's knives, and they are great for seafood. Chef's knives come in various sizes. We recommend when filleting using a knife that feels comfortable to you, seems appropriate for the size of fish you have, and you feel you have control with. Next, fishbone tweezers. Fishbone tweezers are a pair of kitchen tweezers designed for removing the pin bones from a fillet of fish. They are inexpensive and are way easier to use than trying to pull the bones out with your hands. However, needle nose pliers work equally well and are easy to find at any hardware store. Next, a fish scaler. Scaling a fish can be messy. Scales would fly everywhere. We recommend doing it outside if possible, or in the kitchen, or in a trash bag if you are doing it inside. There are many tools you can use to scale your fish. That's all po. Thank you.
I'm Mike Cruz, manager of Greenpoint Fish Wholesale, and I'm here to show you how to fillet every fish. To fillet fish, I usually have around 3 knives with me, depending on the size of the fish. One of these butcher knives is really good for cutting through heads, this 7-inch curved fillet knife, and a little 5-inch guy. You also need a pair of scissors, a steel to keep your knife sharp, a scaler, and a good pair of tweezers to get those pin bones out. Sardine. I think people kind of think of sardines as something Grandpa has in a tin tucked away and hasn't touched in like 10 years. Sardines require no tools to prepare. Any scales that you see on here, totally edible, and are always served whole if they're fresh. So to prepare a sardine, you're gonna open up that gill plate, grab it from the gills and pinch them out. Once the gills are free, you'll grab it from the collar here, and without much pressure, it tears right off. So now, holding onto the collar and the gills, and using your finger to sort of open up the belly, you'll take out all the guts. As soon as you do that, the rib bones start separating on their own, and touching one side of the spine, you can use your fingers sort of like a knife and just run it straight down. And do the same exact thing to the other side. Make sure you're completely free. Then pick the spine up from the center. You'll sort of slip the tail through, pull these up, and take them out. And then you will have a butterfly sardine. Porgy. Porgy is a classic East Coast fish. I always look at porgies as the pigeons of the sea, which is not a bad thing. I say that usually because they have some crazy colors in them when they first come out of the water. Lots of like purples and greens and blues. It's a classic like fish fry spot fish for sure. So to start, we'll grab our scaler, get that fin out of the way, start peeling scales back, making sure you're going diagonal against the grain of the scales from the tail towards the head, making sure you're getting everything out of the way that's going to get in the way of your knife. If you have difficulty scaling these fish, just play around with the position of the scaler. I mean, it just kind of depends on the fish and how much trouble the scales are giving you. Skeletal structure is going to be pretty basic. You pull this up, get right down underneath that collar, and come out. So you make your first cut at the head. Now, porgies can be skinny sometimes, so especially important to make sure that you are staying tight to the bones. Crack through the pin bones on the ribs, pushing down on them, and peeling the fillet back. Now, one thing I think people don't give porgy enough credit for is its fat content, and you'll feel it as you cut this, how oily the fish is. That's porgy fillet. Boston mackerel. This fish is highly oily, definitely has a strong fish flavor, which is great because it is a fish. Super good for you, super high in omega fatty acids, really good for like brain development and things like that. This fish is awesome and my personal favorite. So Boston mackerel is a great fish to eat whole, whether you just pull the guts out and throw it in your oven or butterflying it, and that's what I'm gonna show you today. So with this guy, open up the gill plates and just snip that very tip there. Work around sort of the membrane and open it up, being really careful not to puncture too many organs, and you'll open this guy up. Get your scissor into the tip of the gills, gently pinch and twist and pull up and out. And get a paper towel to clean off the insides. Its blood is fairly strong flavored, so you don't want to have too much of it touching the actual fillets. So we'll start from the tail. Just stay on top of these small fins here. Make your first cut really shallow, making sure you're on top of the bones, opening up that belly cavity, just gently cracking through the rib cage, and following through to the other side, cracking the remaining pin bones. Once you have that side free, flip the fish over, starting from the head, and just using the very tip, just start cracking through those bones and being careful not to cut all the way down through the skin. And then with your scissors, you'll cut right in the middle of the tail to get into the bones. And once you're here, you can just pull out and crack. Face the head away from you and just get right up against those ribs and just gently wiggle your knife underneath them. Same thing on this side, and just follow them, kind of pulling them away from the flesh as you do it. And with these guys, because their bones are so small and brittle, it's totally fine to leave the pin bones in and eat it as is.
What is seafood? Seafood refers to any form related to sea life that is regarded as food by humans. It comprehensive variable aquatic animals but includes mammals. Example words include both ocean creatures and freshwater creatures. Next slide, please. Pagkain dagat. Nakakain ng mga hayop sa tubig, hindi kasama ang mga mammal, ngunit kabilang ang parehong mga freshwater at karagatan. Karamihan sa mga non-toxic aquatic species ay pinagsasamantalahan para sa pagkain ng mga tao, kahit na ang mga may nakakalasa na katangian, tulad ng ilang blowfish ay maaaring handa upang maiwasan ang pisara sa mamimili. List of types of seafood: fish, cephalopods, squids, octopus, and tailsues. Creation, lobster, crab, and shrimp, shellfish. Mollusks like clams and oyster. Echinoderms like sea urchin. Next slide, please. Example of seafood: salmon, crustacean. Crustacean like lobster and shrimp, shellfish. The common name of several species of rapine fish, the fish in the family Salmonidae. There are 7 species of Pacific salmon, 5 of them in North America water: Chinook, Choco, Cham, Chuki, and Pink. Salmon is the common name of several commercially important species of Urali rapine fish from the family Salmonidae, which are native to territories of the North Atlantic. The nutritional value of salmon can vary slightly among the varieties. From example, farming salmon contains slightly more healthy fats and calories, whereas well-canned salmon is a bit higher in protein. Crustacean like lobster and shrimp. Ang masalang na katangian ng isda at pagkain dagat ay nangangailangan ng dagdag na pangangalaga at atensyon sa panahon ng proseso ng pagluluto. Dahil ang mga kalamman ay mas malambot at ang connective tissue ay mas mahina kaysa sa kanilang mga katapat na sa lupa. Madaling ma-overcook at masira ang kanilang mga lasa at texture. Ang parehong mga mapamaraan na ginagamit para sa pagluluto ng mga karne at manok ay maaaring ilipat sa isda at pagkain dagat. Ngunit ang mga temperature at oras ng pagluluto ay karaniwan na babawasan. Next slide, please. Most like clams and oyster. Echinoderms like sea urchin. Moss, like clams and oyster. Ang mga bivalve molls ay isa sa mga pinakasikat na opsyon ng pagkain dagat sa mundo. na inaani ng 2 beses sa bilis ng mga crustacean. Ang lasa ng mga filter feeder na ito ay katulad ng mga karagatan, lawa at ilog kung saan sila nakatira. At napunta sila sa iba't ibang klasisyong pagkain kabilang ang mga Spanish tela, mainstay fried clams at Italian ecodерms like sea urchins. Ang mga ecodерms ay gumaganap ng maraming papel sa ekolohiya. Ang mga sand dollar at sea cucumber ay bumabaon sa buhangin na nagbibigay ng mas maraming oxygen na mas malalim na sahig ng dagat. Nagbibigay daan ito sa mas maraming organismo na manirahan doon. Bilang karagdagan, pinipigilan ng starfish ang paglaki ng aligid sa mga coral reef. Nagbibigay daan ito sa coral ng mag-filter feed ng mas madali. At maraming mga sea cucumber ang nagbigay ng tirahan para sa mga parasito tulad ng mga alimanga, bolate at kuhol. Next slide please. Chipaldus, animal in the class Chipaldus. Squid o octopus. Ang tinta ng pusit ay isang madilim, kadalasang malabo, bughaw na itim na likido na gawa ng mga pusit. Iniimbak ng mga pusit at iba pang cephalopod tulad ng cuttlefish at octopus ang tinta nito sa isang ink sac kapag nasa nganib sila. Pinapakawalan nila ito para itago sila para makatakas sila sa mga mandaragit. Ang tinta ng pusit na tinatawag ding cephalopod ink ay ginagamit ng tradisyonal na gamot sa loob ng maraming singolo. Ginagamit din ito bilang pigment, writing ink, dye at black food coloring. Kung kumain ka ng itim na burger, waffle, pasta o ice cream, maaaring pamilyar ka sa mga tinta ng pusit. Next slide please. Shellfish fabrication. Seafood is expensive and highly perishable and must be handled with the proper care to maintain their integrity. The qualities of fresh shellfish deteriorated quality so meaningful for hatching and grateful inspection of freezing, delivering important, maintain purpose storage, temperature and condition also to minimize cost and maximize yield. Cut one of the muscle that's hold in on the side. You do that same extent thing on the other side. Stay really think to the top shell until you feel that pop. Next slide, please. Frozen shellfish. Lobster, shrimp, scallops, and cooking crab are all available in frozen form. In fact, there are vast arrives to shellfish that can be portioning variables from sport convenience purposes because of their high preservable nature. This many be preferable or the only choose if the operation is landlocked 3K away from coastal waters. Ang seafood ay mahal at lubang madaling masira. At dapat pangsiwa ng may wastong pangangalaga upang manatili ang kanilang integridad. Ang mga katangian ng sariwang shellfish ay mabilis na lumalala kaya maingat na pagbili at maingat na inspection sa pagtanggap ng mga paghahatid ay mahalaga. Pagpapanatili ng tamang temperatura at kondisyon ng imbak upang mabawasan ang mga gastos at mapakinabangan ang mga ani. Ang mga sariwang shellfish ay binibili sa iba't ibang anyo, kabilang ang live, nilinis o niluto at nagproseso. Sa lahat ng kaso, ang sariwang sipot ay dapat magkaroon ng matamis at ganyan na amoy. Ang mga buntot ng lobster, paa ng alimango at hipon sa kanilang mga shell ay maaari itago ng direkta sa yelo ng katulad ng buong isda. Ang mga temperature mababa sa 35 ay mababawasan ang paglaki ng bakterya at depende sa pagiging bago ng mga ito ay maaaring tumagal ng hanggang 7 na araw. Next reporting.
And these are the example videos on how to open in every shellfish.
I'm Mike Cruz, manager of Greenpoint Fish Wholesale, and I'm here to show you how to prep every shellfish. When I prepare shellfish, I like to have 3 knives with me. A large, heavy-backed chef's knife, a smaller, curved, stiff knife for trimming, as well as a thin, flexible knife that is great for getting around shells and other intricate places. It actually has a really nice feature where it extends. Lobster and crab pickers, an oyster knife, which can get into the hinge really well, a clam knife, a shrimp deveiner, a shellfish scissor, which is great for cutting through lobster tails without damaging any of the flesh. I have an offset spatula, and for special circumstances, we're going to use a blacklight. Blue crab. So this is a blue crab, definitely native to East Coast waters. First things first, we're going to steam this crab roughly 6 minutes. It'll turn bright red and it'll be ready to pick out all the meat. We'll pick the crab up, starting with its front claws. We'll just pinch straight from where it connects to the body, down and out. Same with the other side, down and out. And we'll do the same for all the legs and the back swimmers here. So now we're left with just the body. We'll flip the crab upside down and lift up the apron here. And this will just snap right off, exposing a opening there where we'll get our thumbs in and just peel off that top shell. Now here we have some gills, some other organs, and we're just going to remove those. This is the faceplate, which will also just peel right off. Clean out any excess organs from the center cavity, and we're just going to crack this right in half. Going to peel back these little layers of cartilage that hold the meat in, and using now our little picking tool to just very gently start pulling out that really delicate, sweet crab meat. The meat will be covered with a super thin membrane. It just really easily peels right off. And you essentially just want to get your skewer into any little crevice that you find and pulling straight out and getting out every little last bit of meat. That's your body. Now with the claws, separate out the pinchers, the legs, tiny little knuckles. We're just going to come in on the most rounded part and just start snipping away. Crack that shell open and pry that claw meat right out of there. Also, the leg. There really isn't much meat in these little back legs here. The best thing I would do with these is just suck them dry. It's really delicious. American white shrimp. We have the head on with this guy. So what we'll do, just grab the head with one hand, grab the tail with the other hand, and you're just gonna twist it off. I have a shrimp deveiner. Flatten the shrimp out in your hand and extend it. You're gonna go all along the top shell of the shrimp and then come out right before the tail. And now with our hands, we can just go in and just remove it. Segment by segment, you can choose to leave the tail fins on, or you just peel them right off. Now what you're gonna do is run your knife just along the top of the shrimp, gently exposing where the intestinal tract will be, making sure there's nothing there, and there you will have a peeled and deveined shrimp. sea scallop. Live sea scallops are bivalves, which essentially means they have two shells, a top shell and a bottom shell, which are joined right at the end with a hinge. Locate the top shell, which is always going to be more rounded, and the bottom shell will always be a little more flat. Enter the scallop in from the back shell, not the top shell. I like to stand my scallop up on the hinge, locate where the gap is, use my knife to really wedge it open and my fingers to hold it there. I'll stick my flexi knife underneath the eyes, peel them back slightly, locate the muscle, and really staying tight to the back shell and going slow. I'll just wiggle my knife straight down until it frees open that muscle. This lip on the outside is actually where they have a large number of eyes. You don't want to be eating any of that. You're gonna peel back the eyes, hold on to that membrane, and just pull everything out. So now you're left with the main muscle attached to the bottom shell. The muscle's always on one side of the scallop, slightly more than the other. So you want to get on that closer side. Using something flexible, in a swooping motion, press down pretty hard with your knife, and the scallop will slide right out. And then you have live sea scallop. Duck's West Coast sea urchin. So they're covered in spines. This is essentially their defense mechanism. It's how they move around. It's how they capture food that they're gonna get. They have a set of extremely delicious roe sacks within them that most people will know as uni. You wanna be very careful not to get pricked by the spines. Handle them gently. Flip them over. That is the urchin's mouth. I like to use a little paring knife for this, and we're just gonna go right around where the mouth is and just free that up for us so we can get our scissor in. There will be a fair amount of liquid. And again, I'm not going super deep. You just want to be enough so that it's free. We'll take a bowl, and we're just going to dump out any liquid that's in there. And we'll pull the beak out. We're just going to dump all that out. If you look closely, there are some divisions within the way that the urchin is set up. You want to take a pair of shears and get in kind of in between one of those sections and just make a cut. We can do another one on the other side. And we're just looking to pretty much meet these two cuts and just start trimming. And they kind of just peel right off. You can see already the really beautiful bright orange roe that's starting to expose itself. And just all of this is in the way, so we're just gonna get rid of that. Pretty much you can just shake it out. You can use your finger. I like to use a little offset spatula and just free anything up that's getting stuck. Being super mindful of those really delicate roe sacks that you don't want to disturb. You can really start seeing them now. Take a slotted spoon where the roe sack was attached to that top layer. You'll come in the tip of your spoon and pretty much just start scooping them out. And they pretty much just hug the side of the urchin. So you just want to follow the same shape that the urchin has naturally. I'm gonna take the roe sacks, my spatula and my spoon, and just gently drop them into the water. Get in there with your hand. Shake them a little bit, very gently, just to knock off any of that extra organs that are on there. You are ready to enjoy one of the most delicious things in the sea urchin roe. You can just put it on your hand like so, and just super delicious.
Good day, everyone. I am Chandra Inyon, and I'm going to tackle about the benefits of eating seafoods and fish. As we all know, seafood is an essential part of many people's diet around the world, and eating it has been associated with variety of health benefits. Seafood and fish and seafood in general refers to the several types of animals, including fish like mackerel and salmon, crustaceans like lobster and shrimp, mollusks like clams and oysters, echinoderms like sea urchins, and there is no doubt that seafood can positively influence health. And decades of scientific research have shown that diets in that is high in seafood and fish may help protect you from a variety of health conditions. Plus, seafood is rich in nutrients that tends to be low in many people's diet. So, seafoods and fish are highly nutritious. Seafood is a concentrated source of many essential nutrients. Fish and shellfish like salmon, clams, and shrimps are particularly high in protein, plus plus vitamins and minerals like vitamin B12, selenium, and zinc. There are studies that shows that many people don't consume adequate amount of certain nutrients that are concentrated in seafood and fish, including vitamins B12 and B6, selenium, iron, and zinc. And this is concerning as nutrient insufficiencies and deficiencies could negatively affect both physical and mental health and increase the risk of developing certain health conditions, including anemia, depression, and more. Therefore, eating seafood could cover common nutritional gaps, especially in people with diets low in nutrients and those who are more likely to have suboptimal intake or low blood levels of nutrients concentrated in seafoods. Young women, older adults, and people who are pregnant and breastfeeding may be especially at risk of having lower levels. Primary, primary source of omega fatty acids. Seafood is the primary dietary source of omega-3 fatty acids and DHA. So, omega-3 fatty acids and DHA are involved in many aspects of health, including nerve cell function and regulation of inflammation. Seafood or fish is can also link to reduce disease risk because seafood and fish is rich in nutrients, including protein, vitamins, minerals, and anti-inflammatory omega-3 fatty acids. It may offer protection against several health conditions. Actually, there is a study on 2020 that include 34 analysis of studies that found that higher people's fish consumption, the lower the risk of coronary heart disease or CHD, heart attack, heart failure, stroke, depression, and liver cancer. So the review also showed that eating fish was associated with lower risk of death from all causes. There is another review that includes 40 studies that demonstrate that higher fish consumption was significantly associated with a lower occurrence of CHD or the coronary heart disease. It is also found that people who had a higher fish intake also had a significantly reduced risk of death from coronary heart disease. Next slide, please. Eating seafoods and fish can also help with your eyesight. As we get older, the risk of losing our eyesight increases. Luckily, the nutrients in seafood can help with that because omega-3 fatty acids also reduce the risk of developing eye diseases. Vitamin A that is also be found on seafoods and fish is also crucial for eye health. So without enough vitamin A in the food that we are taking, we could definitely be developing night blindness, which makes difficult to see at night. Next is seafood and fish can give us a more brain power. So seafood can give our brain a much needed boost and improve long-term brain health. Omega-3s can help reduce risk of developing Alzheimer's disease and prevent mental decline as we grow older. These nutrients also help our body properly regulate memory and emotion. Next is it promotes heart health. Fish, especially salmon, is very high in omega-3 fatty acids, which keep our heart healthy. Eating fish, especially salmon, once or twice a week can improve our heart health and lower the risk of heart attacks and strokes. Next is it makes our skin and hair healthier. Um, to have a good moisturized skin, eating seafood will definitely be helped by preserving our skin moisture. The omega-3s and fish oil in seafood help reduce acne and protect against the sun's ultraviolet rays, leaving our skin with healthy moisturized skin. For stronger, healthier hair, you should add fatty fish to your diet. Salmon is the best fatty fish for healthy hair because it is packed full of the omega-3s that makes our hair shiny and can even increase hair growth. Because salmon offers several benefits for skin and hair, it's an excellent choice to include salmon in our diet. Lastly is to ease joint pain. If you are suffering from stiff joints in the morning, you may need more seafood in your diet. The omega-3 fatty acids in seafood have anti-inflammatory effects that can benefit people who experience joint pain. Eating seafood, especially fatty fish, can reduce joint stiffness as well as the symptoms of arthritis. So to summarize our report for today, so fish are living things that lives in water, covered with scales and breathes by taking water in through its mouth. There are two classifications of fish, which is round and flat fish. Round fish usually found on fresh water such as lake, pond, and river. On the other hand, the flatfish usually found on the deep ocean, and there are three types of shape of a fish: the round, the flat, and the oily fish. The proper storage and handling of fish should be once bought from the market, fish should be eviscerated or disemboweled before storing to our freezer. Fish should be cooked 2 to 3 days after being disemboweled or at least after being bought from the market. To identify a fresh fish, we should always look to the texture, how it smells, and also how it looks. And there are different cuts of fish that includes fillet, a butterfly fillet, loin cut, steak cut, tail cut, and a whole fish. In preparing a fish, we will be needing to have a sharp knife, fillet knife, boning knife, deba, chef's knife, fishbone tweezer, and fish scaler. For seafood, seafood refers to any form related to sea life that is regarded as food by humans. It comprises edible aquatic animals but excludes mammals. There are some examples of seafood would be fish such as salmon and mackerel, cephalopods such as squid, octopus, and nautilus, crustaceans such as lobster, crab, and shrimp, shellfish, mollusks like clams and oyster, echinoderms such as sea urchins. So in order to maintain the freshness of a seafood, it should always be stored in a cool, dry place. Eating seafood and fish can be really beneficial. Some of the nutrients that seafood and fish provides to human is proteins, vitamins, specifically vitamin B12, selenium, and zinc. Seafood are also a primary source of omega-3 fatty acids. Eating seafood can help gain brain power, helps maintain a good eyesight, good heart health, and lastly can ease joint pain. That's all. Thank you.
And that's all for our report. Thank you, everyone.